Internet, and welcome back to my reviews of the MCU leading up to Avengers Doomsday. Last time we covered Iron Man 2, and now we've made it to the first appearance of the God of Thunder, Thor. Released on May 6, 2011, Thor is directed by Gilderoy Lockhart himself, Kenneth Branagh. Kenneth Branagh's acting credits besides Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets include the role of Hercule Poirot in several films from 20th Century Studios, also directed by him, the voice of Miguel on The Road to El Dorado, and 3 films from Christopher Nolan. His other directing credits include several adaptations of Shakespeare's plays, 2015's Cinderella, and 2020's Artemis Fowl, which is one of the worst films I've seen on Disney+, and which I will not review on my channel ever. Starring in this movie is the first appearance of Chris Hemsworth as Thor, the Norse god of thunder. And then we have Thor's adopted brother Loki, played impeccably by Tom Hiddleston. Loki would later return as the main antagonist in the Avengers, and would have the best redemption arc in the entire MCU with the Loki Disney Plus series, where he saves the multiverse with the Time Variance Authority, or TVA. Tom Hiddleston is set to reprise his role as a fully redeemed Loki in Avengers Doomsday. And then we have Hannibal Lecter himself, Anthony Hopkins as Odin, the ruler of Asgard, as well as Knuckles the Echidna himself, Idris Elba as Heimdall, the sentry of the Bifrost Bridge between the 9 realms of Norse mythology, and Rene Russo as Frigga, the Queen of Asgard. Rene Russo will return to the role in Thor the Dark World in Avengers Endgame. There's Ray Stevenson as Volstagg, a member of the Warriors 3. Ray Stevenson previously portrayed Frank Castle, or the Punisher in 2008's Punisher Warzone, and played the role of Balin Skull in Season 1 of Ahsoka. Sadly, that was a posthumous role, because Ray Stevenson died 4 days shy of his 59th birthday on May 21st, 2023. We have Lady Sif, played by Jamie Alexander. Jamie Alexander would later return to the role of Lady Sif in 2 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and 1 episode of Loki. There's Fandral, played by Joshua Dallas, before being replaced by Shazam himself, Zachary Levi, due to scheduling conflicts. When Thor is exiled on Earth following his reckless actions on Jotunheim, he encounters 3 important characters on Earth. Thor's love interest, Jane Foster, played by Padme Amidala herself, Natalie Portman. Dr. Eric Selvig, played by Stellan Skarsgård. Stellan Skarsgård also played roles in both seasons of Andor, as well as Good Will Hunting, Pirates of the Caribbean, Mamma Mia, and Dune. And then we have Kat Dennings in her first appearance as Darcy Lewis, a character created specifically for the MCU. Darcy Lewis would eventually play an important role in WandaVision, teaming up with Jimmy Woo and a grown-up Monica Rambeau solving the mystery behind Wanda Maximoff's illusion in the town of Westview, New Jersey. I may consider doing unscripted TV discussions videos on WandaVision, as well as The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But this string of reviews will solely be focused on movies instead of Disney Plus shows, as I mentioned in my review of Iron Man. This video will contain spoilers to Thor, so if you haven't seen this film yet, please do so before watching the rest of this video. But if you have seen it, sit back, relax, and enjoy my thoughts on the first film to feature the God of Thunder and his trusty hammer. This is Thor. We begin on a stormy night in New Mexico with 3 scientists. Dr. Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman, her assistant Darcy Lewis, played by Kat Dennings, and their mentor Dr. Eric Selvig, played by Stellan Skarsgård. The 3 of them are studying what appears to be a subtle aurora, but it's actually what's called an Einstein-Rosen bridge, kind of like the Upside Down in Stranger Things. This is actually the Bifrost that connects the 9 realms of Asgard, and they discover Thor, played by Chris Hemsworth, after hitting him with a van. We then get an opening narration from Odin, played by Anthony Hopkins. In 965 AD, we see Odin wage war on the frost giants of Jotunheim as they invade the town of Tonsberg, Norway. This town is also featured in Captain America the First Avenger and Thor Ragnarok. It would later be renamed New Asgard in Avengers Endgame and Thor Love and Thunder. The leader of the frost giants is Laufey, played by Colm Feore. Laufey is the biological father of Loki, who was adopted by Odin as a baby. The frost giants use an artifact called the Casket of Ancient Winters that projects an icy wind that freezes everything in its path and can plunge an entire planet into an ice age. As if the Ice Age movies were done to death and haven't gone off the rails. So say this artifact was used on the Kingdom of Arendelle from Frozen. Not even Elsa herself could reverse it. After the frost giants are defeated and Loki is adopted, the casket is captured and stored in Odin's vault on Asgard. We see Thor and Loki as young children, and they are told by Odin that while they are both worthy of the throne, only one of them can be the true king of Asgard. I would imagine that Asgard would be one of the places in all of fiction that people would want to live in along with Wakanda. Because look at it! It looks like a Disney castle! Even though this film was distributed by Paramount Pictures like Iron Man, Iron Man 2, and Captain America the First Avenger. A fully grown-up Thor wields the mighty hammer Mjolnir, or as Darcy calls it, Mew Mew! And this is the only time where Thor is seen wearing the helmet he wears in the comics. Jane would later be seen wearing this helmet in Thor Love and Thunder as she wields the hammer while also battling stage 4 cancer. And people considered Thor Love and Thunder to be the worst of the solo Thor movies because the tone was inconsistent. Not to mention that infamous floating head that was done with piss poor CGI. And after watching that film 3 times, I no longer consider Thor The Dark World to be the worst Thor movie. Despite a few occasional hits, I feel the MCU went downhill after Avengers Endgame. Especially with films like Eternals, Thor Love and Thunder, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, The Marvels, and Captain America Brave New World. At least in terms of movies. Disney Plus shows are a different story altogether. As Thor is about to be crowned the King of Asgard, we see that the Frost Giants have invaded Asgard and attempted to steal the casket. It's later revealed that it was Loki who allowed the Frost Giants to enter Asgard, because Loki is the Norse god of mischief, able to project illusions of himself to trick his enemies, even Thor, the Avengers, and even all of his TVA shenanigans in the Loki series. We even see a weapon called the Destroyer be deployed on the invading Frost Giants. The Destroyer is an indestructible automaton sent by Loki to destroy Thor while being exiled in New Mexico. And against Odin's orders, Thor goes off to Jotunheim, home of the Frost Giants, to beat the shit out of them for invading Asgard. Heimdall, played by Idris Elba, tries to talk Thor out of bringing Loki, Sif, and the Warriors 3 to Jotunheim to fight against the Frost Giants. We later see that this is not the only film starring Idris Elba to involve a location called Jotunheim, because Jotunheim was the name of a Nazi research facility on the island of Corto Maltese in the Suicide Squad. Odin remains calm about the invasion of the Frost Giants, while Thor is pissed the fuck off and wants to hit the Frost Giants where it hurts. But Odin says, "If you even think about going to Jotunheim to wage war, I will eat your liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti." But Thor's like, "I recognize the All-Father has made a decision, but given that it's a stupid-ass decision, I've elected to ignore it." And so, Thor and his friends cross the Bifrost Bridge to get to Jotunheim. The Bifrost is what connects the 9 realms of Asgard through Yggdrasil, or the World Tree. Thor even explains to Jane later on how Yggdrasil connects all the 9 realms, with Asgard at the center. Yggdrasil is also mentioned in Captain America the First Avenger when Johann Schmidt finds the Tesseract in the church in Tonsberg. And funny enough, it's even mentioned in Ralph Breaks the Internet when Vanellope discovers Oh My Disney, precisely 1 year before the official launch of Disney+.
Yeah, in Captain America, the First Avenger, Red Skull refers to Yggdrasil, the World Tree, guardian of wisdom and fate. Are we to believe, sir, that you are a descendant of that tree?
I am Groot.
Okay, thank you very much.
And so, our Asgardian heroes go to Jotunheim to confront Laufey, and thus, an epic battle ensues between Thor and his band of Asgardian warriors versus the Frost Giants and the other beasts of Jotunheim, all with the help of his trusty hammer. During the battle, we see that Loki is a Frost Giant himself when he is touched by a Frost Giant. As the Asgardians retreat, Thor kills the Frost Beast, but then Odin comes in to assist the heroes. Odin and the Frost Giants' peace treaty is now null and void thanks to the recklessness of Thor. So now the Frost Giants have officially declared war on Asgard. Odin punishes Thor for his recklessness, all because he didn't listen to his son's warnings about how the Frost Giants drew first blood.
You've forgotten everything I taught you. But a warrior's patience.
While you wait and be patient, the 9 realms laugh at us. The old ways are done. You'd stand giving speeches while Asgard falls.
You are a vain, greedy, cruel boy!
And you are an old man and a fool!
Odin deems Thor unworthy of his power and strips him of his ability to control thunder and exiles him to Earth as punishment for his actions. And he puts an enchantment on Mjolnir that whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor.
I now take from you your power. In the name of my father and his father before, I own it, all father. Cast you out! Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor.
There are only 2 Avengers besides Thor who are also worthy of wielding Mjolnir, and they are the Vision in Avengers Age of Ultron and Steve Rogers in Avengers Endgame. If anyone from the Sonic and Sonic series was worthy to wield that hammer, it would be Sonic.
Excuse me, what about me and my Pico Pico hammer?
Yes, Amy, you're the one who wields a giant hammer.
I know that I'm cosplaying as Wonder Woman for the DC X Sonic the Hedgehog collaboration, but if they do a collaboration with Marvel, I won't be surprised if they have me dressed as Thor because of my hammer.
We don't know for certain, Amy.
But if you were referring to Shonik wielding the Golden Eagle blade, then yes, he would be worthy of Thor's hammer. Anyway, I'm gonna go on a date with Sonic. Have fun reviewing Thor, David!
Thanks for the cameo, Amy. So, where were we? After Thor is voted off of Survivor Asgard Edition, he lands in New Mexico where he meets Jane, Darcy, and Dr. Selvig after getting hit by their van. And Darcy even tases Thor.
Hammer? Hammer?
Yeah, we can tell you're hammered. It's pretty obvious.
Oh my god, Eric, look at this. We have to move quickly before this all changes.
Jane, we have to take him to the hospital.
Father!
He's fine, look at him.
I'm down! I know you can hear me. Open the Bifrost!
Hospital, you go. I'll stay.
You. What realm is this? Alfheim? Dornheim?
New Mexico?
You dare threaten me, Thor, with so puny a weapon?
What? He was freaking me out.
Thor is even hospitalized and handcuffed to a bed for people thinking his story is a fucked up lie, because that seems to be a trope in a lot of movies where people don't believe their stories and deem them insane. Like Kyle Reese in The Terminator from 1984, and Sarah Connor in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and the historical figures from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and Belle's father from Beauty and the Beast. Jane even starts to develop feelings for the mysterious stranger against Dr. Selvig's pleas. And we see that this is another example of the fish out of water trope in modern fiction, where Thor is unaware of Earth's customs and laws, and pulls random shenanigans like going into a pet store and asking for a horse.
I need a horse!
We don't have horses, just dogs, cats, birds.
Hey, give me one of those large enough to ride.
Immediately after smashing a coffee mug after trying coffee for the first time and loving it.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
Sorry, Izzy, little accident. What was that?
It was delicious. I want another.
Well, you could have just said so.
I just did.
No, I mean, ask nicely.
I meant no disrespect.
All right, well, no more smashing. Deal?
You have my word.
Loki even references that scene when he begins to go on multiversal adventures with Sylvie in one episode of Loki Season 1.
Another!
We also see the return of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Phil Coulson, played once again by Clark Gregg. This picks up from the post-credit scene from Iron Man 2, where Mjolnir is discovered in the middle of the desert. Coulson commandeers Jane's equipment for their own research on the crash site involving Mjolnir, which greatly upsets Jane. Jane, Darcy, and Dr. Selvig suspect that Thor has all the answers to what's going on in New Mexico, but we see that he escaped from the hospital and is walking amok, not knowing where the hell he is. And he overhears from the locals about a meteorite that crashed in the middle of the desert. That, of course, being his trusty hammer. We even see multiple people try to lift it as if they were trying to pull a sword out of a stone, like it was the Legend of King Arthur, or even Sonic and the Black Knight. One of those people being Stan Lee driving a pickup truck. Later on, we see that S.H.I.E.L.D. built a perimeter around the hammer to study its properties, and we even get the first appearance of Clint Barton, or Hawkeye, played by Jeremy Renner. His appearance in this movie is uncredited, but he does become an important team player for the Avengers in the Battle of New York. This is also the very first appearance of Jasper Sitwell, played by Maximiliano Hernandez. Jasper Sitwell is a Hydra sleeper agent who posed as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent as we see in Captain America the Winter Soldier. Back on Asgard, Loki goes up to Odin and confronts him about his true parentage. Odin tells him that he is indeed the son of Laufey, and that he was adopted by Odin after the first war against the Frost Giants. Odin then falls into a coma dubbed the Odin Sleep to regain his strength. However, this leaves him vulnerable as Loki takes over the throne of Asgard and allows the Frost Giants to invade Asgard and take back the Casket of Ancient Winters. In New Mexico, Jane takes Thor to the crash site, which now has a base built around it so that S.H.I.E.L.D. can study the hammer. So Thor brawls his way in. By the time he gets to the hammer, with Clint Barton watching, he can't lift it. Thor, in a state of agony, is then detained and questioned by Coulson. Afterwards, he is visited by Loki, who tells him that Odin is dead and that he fell into the Odin Sleep. Dr. Selvig arrives to bring Thor out of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s custody and takes him out for a drink at a bar, which will most likely beat me after reviewing Thor Love and Thunder. Thor and Selvig end up drinking Boilermakers, which are beers mixed with a shot of whiskey, and that'll definitely prove useful for the next time I review a bad movie. Hell, if I were to review something like Green Lantern, or Dragon Ball Evolution, or M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender, that'll be my go-to drink. Thor brings a drunk Dr. Selvig home, and he and Jane go out and gaze at the stars in the night sky. And this is where Thor and Jane fall in love. He tells her all about where he comes from, as well as the Nine Realms, Yggdrasil, and the center of it all, Asgard. Jane doesn't end up going to Asgard herself until Thor the Dark World. Fed up with sitting around doing nothing while Loki is sitting on the throne, and fed up with Volstagg eating 4 wild boars, 6 pheasants, a side of beef, and 2 casks of ale, the Warriors 3 and Sif head to Earth to try to get Thor out of exile. But earlier, Loki tells Thor that he cannot return to Asgard. So the 4 of them find Thor and tell him that Odin is still alive. But then things go from bad to worse when Loki sends the Destroyer after Thor. The Destroyer is mistaken for Tony Stark's tech, and it proceeds to wipe out the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents one by one before closing in on Thor. The war rages on between Asgard and the Frost Giants as Loki freezes Heimdall in place as he meets with Laufey. And we see that it was Loki who allowed the Frost Giants to invade Asgard during Thor's Bosch coronation. The Destroyer then causes the entire town to
blow up into smithereens and spew my tiny symphony.
Thor unsuccessfully tries to talk Loki into leaving the people of Earth alone, and he gives himself up to the Destroyer, which knocks Thor to the side, leaving him near death. Sensing Thor's agony, Odin, still in the Odin sleep, lets out a tear, thus deeming Thor worthy to hold the hammer again. It is here where Jane gets to see Thor's true form. His powers are restored, and he defeats the Destroyer. As Coulson and the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents arrive at the scene, Coulson tries to debrief Thor, but Thor has unfinished business with Loki. The Frost Giants begin their assault on Asgard, and as Laufey is about to kill Odin, Loki then kills Laufey. Even though Heimdall is frozen solid, he is aware of his surroundings, and once he breaks free, he returns Thor to Asgard so he can confront Loki. Loki proceeds to tell Thor his plan to use the Bifrost to destroy Jotunheim, and this is where Thor gets into a huge fight with Loki before he becomes the Avengers' main adversary. Thor then proceeds to destroy the Bifrost bridge with his hammer, but Loki tells him that he'll never see Jane again after proving to him that he grew soft and protective of the people of Earth. Odin finally snaps out of the Odin sleep to stop the two brothers from falling into deep space, and so Loki allows himself to fall into the abyss after Odin rejects Loki's pleas for approval. But this is not the last we see of Loki before becoming the main adversary to the Avengers. Thor makes amends with Odin after everything that went down, but he tells him that he's not ready to be king as he longs to see Jane again with the Bifrost destroyed. How Thor was able to arrive on Earth to join the Avengers for the first time, I have no fucking clue. Odin assures Thor that Jane is looking for him and a way to get to Asgard working alongside S.H.I.E.L.D. But then, another post-credit scene with Nick Fury, played once again by Samuel L. Jackson, meeting with Dr. Selvig, asking him to study a cube-shaped object. That, of course, being the Tesseract, one of 6 Infinity Stones. The Tesseract's first full appearance is in the next film I'm gonna talk about after this. We see that Loki survived the fall, and that's the end of the movie. I'm giving Thor a 7 out of 10. This was a good introduction to Thor on the big screen and into the bigger Marvel universe. Thor only appeared in one other live-action role in the 1988 television film The Incredible Hulk Returns, where he's played by Eric Allen Kramer. But Chris Hemsworth makes a great Thor in this universe, even if the script is awful by turning him into a complete parody of himself because of Taika Waititi. Tom Hiddleston makes an excellent Loki as an adversary not only to Thor, but the Avengers too. I never got to see this at the theater, but it was a fun Marvel adventure that I was glad to have revisited. The cast was great in their roles, and the humor was on point, but not to the point where it becomes a flat-out comedy like Thor Ragnarok. And it was a great way to expand the MCU into the cosmos and the far reaches of space. 3 years before we are introduced to the Guardians of the Galaxy. The rest of the solo Thor movies aren't all great with the exception of Thor Ragnarok, because Thor the Dark World is forgettable but necessary to the story of the overall MCU as seen in Avengers Endgame. And Thor Love and Thunder is my ultimate apology for treating Thor the Dark World too harshly. But this film was a solid introduction to Thor in the MCU, and is a great origin story to the God of Thunder. Now that I think about it, what would Thor's reaction be to the Thunderbolts in Avengers Doomsday? Well, New Avengers, but still. The Thor movies may not be my personal favorite series of non-Avengers solo films in the MCU, but I had a fun time with this one. But my actual personal favorite series of non-Avengers solo films begins with the next film I'm going to talk about after this. Stay tuned for my upcoming review of Captain America the First Avenger coming soon, as well as all exciting videos and projects coming soon. Till then, I'll see you all next time.